Hey, hi, this is Sandeep, and in this tutorial we're gonna learn about the dynamic regions. So here I'll explain you how to create a dynamic region and how to work with that. So for that, basically I have already created some of the pages that I will show you before starting this demo. So in this unbounded task flow, I have created this page which is called as dynamic region demo. If you come inside this page, you see this is the material that I have written. This is a dynamic region demo page over here. So this is just to identify that this is the page, and then I have created these two buttons. Okay, and I have right now not related or associated any activity or any action with this button. I have just dragged them from the palette, from the component palette, and I have just marked their label as this that show task flow 1 or show task flow 2. Okay, so here I have done that. Now our requirement is that in this part of the page we want to display a dynamic region. When I say dynamic region, it means that this would be a region which would be associated to a task flow, but that would be dynamic. That is to say, when I click show task flow 1, one task flow should get initiated over here, but when I click on show task flow 2, on the same part of the page, another task flow should be called and initiated over here. Okay, so we need particularly two bounded task flows to be displayed here as a region. Okay, and that would be a dynamic this would be a dynamic region. That is to say, we'll just go ahead and create two bounded task flow right now. Okay, so I have already created, this is task flow 1 and this task flow 2. There are other stuffs also here. I was just experimenting with the other stuff, so you do not need to pay attention over the other stuff for this tutorial. Okay, so these are the two bounded task flows that I have created. So let's see what I have done in that. I have created task flow 1 and task flow 2 with fragments. Okay, that is to say the pages inside them will be of .jsff. Okay, extension. So under this task flow I have this page, one page only, which says task flow 1 page. Okay, if you go inside this page will simply say this is task flow 1 page, just to identify that what is this page. Okay, because when the page gets rendered, it is not going to show you which JSFF or from which source it is coming. So this is a simple task flow that I've created, task flow 1, and inside that I have one page. Similarly, task flow 2 is created. Inside this also a page is there, only one page is there, task flow 2 page, and if you go inside this page, it simply says this is task flow 2 page. So it's very easy to memorize these two task flow. They both have only one pages inside them, and the text inside those pages will show you what page it is. Okay, task flow whether it is a task flow page. So this is about these task flow that I have created. Okay, now I want here a dynamic region and I want to switch between these two. For example, if I drag it over here, previously I was just dragging it over here and dropping it as region, but right now I'll do it dynamic region. Dynamic region means that when I just drag and drop it over here and say dynamic region like this, dynamic region, then what will happen, this will appear over here as a region, but that would be dynamic in the way that I can switch from this region to some another region also. So right now our requirement is to switch between these two. Okay, these are the two task flows, so our requirement is that we will have some configurations somehow that we would be able to switch between these two task flows by these two buttons. Okay, so for that what I would do, I would take any one of these, let's say task flow 1. I'll just drag it over here, say dynamic region. As you say dynamic region, it will ask you a manage bean. So the thing is, actually when you drag a task flow and drag it as a region over a page, it would have a task flow ID, right? But as I have dragged and dropped it as a dynamic region means that any one of the task flows out of whatsoever you have can be called. So the task flow ID itself right now is not fixed. It is going to be resolved at the runtime. Okay, so what we would be doing, we would be dealing with these two task flows. So at the runtime, the task flow ID for this will be different and for this will be different, right? So at the runtime only it is going to resolve what task flow ID it has to supply. So that is the reason that it will ask you about a manage bean. Manage bean in the sense, this manage bean will hold the task flow ID will hold the value of the task flow ID at the runtime, which has to be invoked. Okay, so if I create the page, and if you reverse the tutorial, if you just rewind it and see, then you will be able to understand more. So I'll just go ahead and create one managed bean. I will say bean for dynamic region. Okay, and the same I'll give it as class name, and okay, this will be a backing bean by default. Click OK. Now it will ask you about if you have any, if you have got any of the input parameters that you would want to supply. So in this tutorial, I'm not having any input parameters in these task flows, in these task flow 1 and task flow 2 that I showed you. I don't have any parameters to pass, right? So I won't be passing any one of the parameters. I'll hit OK. So it will go ahead and create a dynamic region for me. Okay, so here is our dynamic region, the task flow 1 that I have dragged and dropped over here. Now this was the one which I dragged and dropped over here. So this has already created one dynamic region. If you go to the source, you will find this is the region, this is the bindings, and dynamic region 1. Okay, so if you go to the bindings, you will see task flow dynamic region. Okay, and if you go to the property inspector, by selecting this, you will see that the task flow ID, from where it is coming from the backing bean scope that just now you defined with this name, and it is coming from this variable. Okay, so if you go inside this, whatever we just now created, there is a variable called as task flow ID, which holds the path, the task flow ID. Okay, so right now it is holding this value. Okay, so it is going to resolve that is to say, on this page here you have a region, and you just now drag and drop this region. So to reach this task flow, okay, it will try to take the help of this bean. Under this bean, it will try to take the help, it will try to take the value of this variable. Whatever value lies inside this variable, that will be resolved that will be resolved as the task flow ID at the runtime. Okay, so now I want to put here also, this one also here, right? But you would be thinking that I will drag this also over here, but it is not required, because that would create two dynamic region. Our requirement is to create only one dynamic region, and in that dynamic region only we want to display both of these based on the switching in these two buttons, right? So you just have to create one dynamic region that we have already done. You could have done with the help of this one only. I have done right now with the help of dragging only this one. Okay, so you have already created dynamic region. You just want to change. You can just go ahead and change the value of this task flow ID to point to this task flow, right? So how would you do that? Firstly, let's say I have created a dynamic region. I want to create a kind of a link on which I would click so that it appears over here. So just drag this task flow 1 over here, say I want to create dynamic region link and dynamic region 1. This is already a dynamic region 1, that's why it is showing that when I dragged it over here, and if I click this, it will create a link that would be pointing to the dynamic region 1, and this is the dynamic region 1. If you see over here in the tooltip, it is coming as dynamic region 1. Okay, so this one, as you click, this region will appear. Now the question is how this region is going to appear, how this task flow is going to be invoked as a region over here. So we have already done this thing. What we'll do, we will just alter the value. One thing more, as I drag this task flow 1 over here, okay, this got generated, and this action got associated with this link. And what is this action? If you go inside this, you will find, or if you just double click it, oh, I'm sorry, just go inside this, you will find this is the newly method that has been created. So what it is doing, it is just taking this task flow ID and setting its value, which would point to the task flow 1, right? So if you have to point to task flow 2, you can have another method over here which would alter this value. So you do not need to write that manually. If you want to migrate to task flow 2, just drag this over here, say dynamic region link and dynamic region 1. So what it will do, it has created this link which has created another method over here task flow 2, and this one is going to alter the value of the task flow ID to point to this task flow. Okay, so the main thing to remember here is that you just need to create one dynamic region. You can choose any one of the task flows which are required on the, suppose there are some 5 task flows which are required on a region, on a region of a page, and that is dynamic in the sense any one of those 5 task flow can be called. So you just need to drag only one of those 5 task flow over here and create a dynamic region first. After creating the dynamic region once, you can just drag the other 4s and create the links which would just alter the value of this task flow ID in the managed pane, so that that gets evaluated at the runtime. Okay, I hope you understand it well. Now I created this, so let's just go ahead, and I have not I have not associated any actions yet for this buttons. So let's just go ahead and run and see whether this is working fine. If I mean, when I click on task flow 1, this task flow should get invoked, and when I click on task flow 2, this task flow should get invoked. So our application is up, and these are the 2 links over here. So if you click already, this one is getting rendered, task flow 1. If you click on the task flow 2, see it changes. This changes to the page which shows that task flow 2 has been called. If you again click on task flow 1, this again changes. So our links are working properly. Now we want to supply the same kind of action over here on this buttons, right? So you do not need to work too hard for that. You just need to go over here, as you are seeing that this link is invoking this action, right? So you would want the same action to be invoked when you click this button. So go to this and just say I want to paste this action right now. Okay, I have already previously, before starting this tutorial, I associated these actions with this. So you go to the task flow 2, and you know this action is going to be invoked, so just copy this and associate this action with the action of this button. So here I've already pasted it before starting the tutorial, so just doing it again. And after that, you can also remove these links. So I have removed the links. Actually it will try to show you an error over here because partial triggers were associated with this. That is to say, when you were having this, I will show you. See, task flow 1 was there and its ID was CL1, right? And if you go over to this region and if you see partial triggers, we'll have to search partial triggers. So you see over here partial triggers CL1 and CL2, these 2 IDs. So it gets refreshed, this region gets refreshed when these links are clicked, that is CL1 and CL2. CL1 corresponds to this, as you see in the property inspector, and CL2 corresponds to this. So when you delete these, if I delete these 2 links, right, if I just delete these 2 links like that, so obviously again this will be pointing to the CL1 and CL2, and that's the reason that it is showing it as error. So what I will do, I will take what ID is over here. CB1 is the ID over here, and here CB2 is the ID, right? So I'll probably take these IDs and paste it in the partial triggers over here. CB2. You can also go in the drop down and add it, and over here you can give whatever you want. Okay, I just give these 2, so these are already here in the selected. That is to say, you can just remove all these. Again, you can go in the expression builder, edit, and here you can select that these 2, I want to refresh this region when any one of these buttons are clicked. Okay, so the same thing appeared again. previously I was doing it manually. So just save it. Right now there is no error. Just run and see if it works fine. So here is our application. Task flow 1 is already activated. Click on here. See, another task flow got activated. Click on here. Another one got activated. So it is working as expected. I hope this explains you well. I'll see you in the next tutorial.